one of the peaks of the yogic experience is to realize that there's a dimension within you that is purely existential. Do you know what I mean by existential?
I'm not sure.
It has to do, look, one of the greatest problems of people's lives is that they're experiencing life mostly as a psychological process. Either the world of their experience is limited to the thought process or their emotion, and they're usually entangled in one of these two. But when I say something which is existential, I mean it has to do with being. It has to do with the pure presence that is running beneath all of your actions. And what is that presence? Just see what is the background in which everything is emerging in your experience. It is none other than pure consciousness. So pure consciousness is like the cosmic screen upon which all the images of the universe appear. So, it's just like empty space. I've always described it in that sense. Empty space, try to locate where is your consciousness. Is it limited to your finger, to your hand, to your arm, to your head, to the chest, to the legs? Where is it? You'll find you can't localize your consciousness. It's just spread all over. So similarly, your consciousness, if you try to identify where is your consciousness in your experience, you'll find it's just flooded. It's flooded all over the place, just like empty space. And like empty space, it contains all the stars, galaxies, and billions of worlds. Similarly within you, through the empty space of your pure consciousness, this is the cosmic background in which everything is arising in your experience. So did I ever give you the analogy of the chariot?
The what?
The chariot?
I don't think so.
In the East, there's an analogy which is given for what is a human being. As a chariot. So what is the chariot? Obviously, the physical chariot, that corresponds to the physical body.
And a chariot is the thing with wheels?
Right, and the horses,
yes.
The driver's there with the horses, and they're traveling.
Yeah.
It's like a cart. It's a cart connected to the horses.
Mm-hmm.
So, who are the horses? The horses are your organs of action. Your eyes. The eyes for seeing, the nose for smelling, the ears for hearing, your arms, your legs, the tongue for tasting. So these are the organs of action that you are using to carry yourself through in the world. Now these horses, they're connected by the reins, and the reins are controlled by the driver of the chariot. Now what does the driver do? He has to be sensitive to his environment. He has to discriminate. Who are the other drivers on the road? What routes do I have to travel? What is the climate today? Should I move in this direction or should I move in this direction? This is, can you take a guess? What part of you within you is like this driver? Not the mind.
Not the mind.
Because look at this, the mind by itself it's like an inanimate object. Thoughts simply happen. Emotions simply happen. Mind is very much automatic and mechanical process. That's why, for example, there are things that exist in your mind right now which you're not even aware of. For example, I tell you, think of a time in your childhood, and instantly the memory surfaces in your experience. It's not that you created a new experience. That memory was already there. But you were not conscious of it. And your intellect was not involved. Did you get me?
Mm-hmm.
So mind is really, it's not so different than an inanimate object. So it's not the whole mind, it's an aspect of the mind. Which aspect of the mind?
Is it spirit? No. That's a good question. It's not.
So what is let's look at it again.
Yeah.
What does the driver do? He's involved in the decision-making process. Which part of your mind, if you didn't have this, you would not be capable of a decision-making process?
That's a good question. It's not emotion because you don't make decisions in this.
Actually, that's not entirely true, but we can get back to
Okay.
that.
soul? No? What can be the driver?
So go by a process of deduction then.
Yeah.
It's not the soul, it's not the spirit. Because when you talk about this thing which we call spirit,
Yeah.
just so you know, generally this is an English word,
Yeah.
but have you heard in certain streams of philosophy they're talking about matter and spirit? These are two different aspects of the cosmos. One which is all material, and then there's another realm which is entirely non-physical, which we're calling spirit. So in other words, it's just a word. You call it whatever you want, but you take any object around you at random. Take this cup. If we break down this cup, we'll find it's made of atoms. We break down those atoms, it's made of electrons, protons. We break down those atoms, it's made of even finer particles. Keep on breaking it down till you come to its subtlest aspect. That dimension is what we are calling spirit, which is beyond time, beyond space, which
beyond
is
perception, you mean?
It is non-material, and it doesn't belong to the relativity of time and space. So it's a dimension in which is pure silence, the silence in which everything else in the universe arises, if you want to look at it in that terms. So in a sense, whole yogic process is to discover what is this realm within you, to know what is the truth of your being. And what does that mean, the truth of your being? We're talking about a realm that remains unchanged. In the past it is, in the present it is, in the future it is. Obviously that can't be your body. Obviously it can't be the mind and the mental process. So if you want to use that word, you can call it spirit. So that is not the part of you that discriminates. That's the same thing that's flowing through everything in the universe. Whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, it makes no difference. Anyway, that realm is there. So what could it be? The driver of the chariot.
That's kind of a mystery for me.
If I tell you, it will become obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, but in my case, I would say that driver in my life is...
It's in everybody's cases.
Yeah.
The driver is the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Just like the physical chariot, the body is the same for everybody, right? The horses, this is the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody uses the eyes for seeing, ears for hearing. The anatomy is the same. So we are talking, when we're talking about this chariot, we are talking about the anatomy. The anatomy of what makes a human being. Maybe you're identified more with one part of the anatomy or the other, but still the anatomy doesn't change. Right?
Yeah.
So, the driver of the chariot, he is the discrimination of your intellect.
The what?
The distinctions of your intellect.
Okay.
So your intellect makes discriminations. You know, for example, because of your intellect, when you came into the room, you know you have to enter up the elevator, walk down this hall, reach room 307, right? All of this is the discrimination of your intellect. That's just like the driver of the chariot. Now, besides the driver of the chariot, there's one more character. He's serving the rider of the chariot. And who's the rider? He is just sitting there as a pure witness. He has no direction. The intellect has a direction. But this witnessing intelligence has no direction. It's just pure awareness absorbing everything. Not even in bits and pieces. Absorbing everything at once. That is none other than pure consciousness. So what I'm suggesting is, if you become more anchored in this pure consciousness, the cosmic background in which all your experiences are happening, you'll see there comes a certain freedom. This consciousness is not entangled in the experience of the body, or the mind, or the five senses. because it's the background,
Mm-hmm.
right? How can it be entangled
Mm-hmm.
if it is the background,
Mm-hmm.
like empty space?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the problem is, for most people, they're perceiving their life only through the narrow lens of their ego. So I've always described the ego, it's not that the ego is separate from this pure consciousness, but I've always described it, it's as though you're at the beach, you're looking at the horizon, and just because your perspective is limited, you think this horizon is the whole ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a